Hi there. I'm so happy to be talking about loads of books today. I just finished having all these piles. I went to the library and I just kept piling on and I got sucked into so many and I just read them all. And I was like, this is going to be a big review. This will include the end of my spring reading into my summer reading. So before I post this, I'll probably have already put my summer reading, even though I didn't finish my spring reading, although I did, but not before I recorded that. Let's start with a book club that I'm a part of that decided to read The Darling Buds of May. So this was their choice because it was May. I had never heard of this book. However, I've seen The Mating Game, which is an old movie, and it's based off of this book. And so I was reading, I was like, this sounds familiar. And then I put it together. The Darling Buds of May, I guess here's where I'm starting with one of the worst books I've read this year. I could not really get into it. It was very humoristic. It had lots of funny, quirky things in it, but it did not work for me very well. Let me explain. Okay, so we have a family, a very large family. We have the father, he goes by Pop, and the mother, and they live in England. And this tax collector guy, or someone that works for what would be the equivalent to like an IRS agent, goes over to them. And this was written in the late 1950s, by the way. This tax collector guy is like, hey, I needed to know about your income and how you're making money, and you haven't been putting anything in taxes. And they're like doing whatever they can to like avoid this. They invite him to dinner. They see that he's kind of taken to their teenage daughter. And I don't know how old this man is. It's maybe assumed that he's a young man that just got this job, but he is like staring at their like 17-year-old daughter. So this is where I started to have issues, is that like the entire book, they're talking about breasts. And I don't understand why they're so fascinated by it, but this guy is like staring. Now, I like to read clean things where there's nothing gross. I'm sorry if you hear a baby in the background, but my husband is playing with our toddler right now and he's having a blast. This book throughout it, it's like it just allows like so many problems that I wouldn't accept. Like even our society today, it looks a little bit confused about certain things that went on in this book, as if like no one batted an eye. There's, I don't know how to explain it, but there's, without having actual sexual content, men that are like allowed to like do whatever they please with other women. I can't even speak because it just bothered me so much. While this was a very fun story, I just struggled because there's just so many things that I can't even speak about that I just don't want to say because they are slight spoilers. But you know, it's all about this family. They have loads of kids and they're having a good time and they just like to have all these people, and you're like, where do they get the money to have these feasts all the time? They kind of like repurpose things and they sell things. They have goats and they sell their meat, and they just make their living just kind of trading things off. The one daughter, Mariette, which I love her name, it's a combination of Marie Antoinette put together, so it's Mariette. That's really clever. She was an interesting one. She was constantly wanting the attention of this older man, and I understand teenage girls like don't think about a problem with that. And you know, in that time period, a lot of people got married young. I have loads of family members that got married at like 17, so it makes sense. Anyway, I really don't recommend the book. Heal Your Living. This is a book about minimalism, and there is a woman, she has her own YouTube channel, and I went to it even after I read the book. I feel like this book, as a minimalist for 19 years now, I can say this would be very helpful for people that want to organize their thoughts, that are just trying to understand how to get rid of their stuff, that maybe need things written down. There's a million questions. This book is just question after question. I'd say there's definitely a few hundred questions in this book. So the whole thing is just for you to process. What I would have liked about this book is more of her story, what got her to where she was. It was very brief, and I wanted a lot more included in this. But she does talk about different things, including in a journey for minimalism. So the sustainability part, the wellness part, just different factors that a lot of people maybe don't really think about when they start to declutter their stuff and want to get rid of things. So she gives very helpful ideas, but I just, as someone that's been a minimalist so long, it wasn't helpful for me. But I think a lot of people could benefit from this book. This is my last spring TBR book to be read. It is now read. I finished my reading list. I'm very happy about it. This is A Glimmer of a Clue. Remember, I talked about the first book in my spring list as one of my favorite books. These are just, I mean, look how adorable this little picture is, where you have the kitty cat, you see little fairy sparkles, and it's just a cute setting. Now, this is about a woman who has her own little fairy garden shop. So you could come into her shop and make your own fairy gardens. She supplies different things. She teaches about how to do it. And it's very cute, the idea of having a shop like that. So in this book, it was very interesting how much they tried to put all these like ideas of who did the murder. So there is a woman that she is murdered, and she had a fight earlier in that day. Everyone saw it in the neighborhood, and it was very loud and just an argument. A lot of people have issues with her. And so because of that, it's putting the pieces together. And Courtney is the main character in this book, and her little fairy friend, she sees fairies, and a couple people in the area can see fairies. In fact, there's a few fairies that live there, and her fairy has been trying her best to gain wings that are a little bit bigger than what she has, and she has to have good conduct. So they work together as a team to try to solve this murder, and they find all sorts of clues. They were witness to some of the events there, just the surrounding situation, and Courtney somehow always ends up like being one of the people to find the body. Like in the first one, she found the body, but she was accused, while this one she's not accused, but her friend's mother is. So she wants to clear her name, but there was a certain situation that made it very hard for people to disbelieve that she was not the murderer. Did that make sense? Disbelieve that she was not the murderer? Makes you want to think that she must have been the murderer, but she's like, no way. She loves everyone. Everyone loves her. Very cute story. I love a cozy mystery like this. It just brings warmth to your heart, even though there's someone that is killed. This is about a girl, I think her name is Little Flower, born in China in the late 1800s. She is sold into slavery as a laborer for being a companion to a rich girl. Her mother, when she sells her, she had been, she started to bind her feet. She was only 4 years old. So it is very important for a young girl who's poor, if she has her feet bound, she is looked at a little bit with more respect. But the girl that she is sold to be her slave to, this girl does not have her feet bound. And it is very rare, but her father is like, no way. I don't want my daughter to have such a horrible thing done to her. And it was in that sort of transitional period of when people started to stop binding their daughter's feet because they realized it wasn't really appropriate. It wasn't good for them. She's mad though, because how come her slave has these perfect feet while she is not allowed to? So she's so jealous throughout the book. She has so much jealousy. So the whole book is about their relationship, these two girls that don't get along, but how they just have to be together all the time. And the entire time that you read this book, you feel awful for Little Flower, and you just start to go, oh, I can't stand this girl. Her name is Lin Jing. So the two of them grow up. Oh, I can't say anymore because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I really loved how they wrapped this up. The entire story, I was very into it. I wanted to know more that was going to happen, and I really enjoyed learning about Little Flower. She is so skilled with embroidery. Another reason to be jealous of her. She just has this beautiful way of doing this, and the author actually based this book around one of her family members from some of the history that she knows about her family. So I thought that was really beautiful. Content-wise for this book, I can't remember anything that was remotely bad, but this was pretty clean. And if there was something sexual, it was talked like past tense. It doesn't explain what happened in detail at all. Oh man, but this was good. I really liked this book. And yeah, the way they wrapped it up, it had a little bit of a redemption story to it. And it had, I don't know if situations would have occurred the way they did in history, because a lot of Chinese history is pretty strict. So some things were really difficult, but some things were forgiven too easily. So I don't know. I mean, the way it worked out was really nice. The Late Bloomers Club. This is book number 1 for my summer reading list, guys. Summer reading list is starting. So I picked this book because it has a bicycle on it, and I love to ride bikes, and it's just a very summery feel. This book does take place in spring going into summer, but then also going into autumn. So you get a little bit of all the seasons in here, and it's really a sweet story about these two sisters. One sister, she has been taking care of everything. She just takes care of everyone. Her parents she took care of. We know that they are deceased in the beginning of the book, so they backtrack in how that happened. And then she has this little little sister. She's about 6 years older than her. The main character has her own restaurant. It's a grill. Her father loved it, and it's pretty much the only thing she has. She just loves her hometown. She lives in, I believe it's Guthrie, Vermont, which gives you such a beautiful New England vibe throughout reading this, actually. She and her sister are left a home of the neighbor that they grew up next to. And so her sister comes and visits with her boyfriend, and her sister is very different from her. And at first, her sister, I could not stand her. But after a little bit, you start to learn more about her personality, and she has quite a big heart. And then you see how the two of them actually really care about one another, and they're trying their best to compromise and figure out what to do with this house that was left to them. Also, there is a man that comes to visit, and he is interested in the land of where the house stands. So together they learn about this woman that left them this house, and they also learn about each other in their adultness now that they're like in their 40s, late 30s. There's a little bit of romance that takes place. This was the one problem I had with this book. It was amazing as I was reading it, and then like halfway through they finally put a bad word in it, and then after a while they put like a few more, and I was like, oh, what a bummer. That would have made me like it more. But it was otherwise a very nice story. I found out about this book through Pinterest a couple years ago, and I do like how it ended. It was very nice. Good book. Not amazing, but good book. 3-act tragedy. This is an Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot. I think I finally said it right, guys. Poirot. I don't know. I've been reading all of these books in order for so long now, but this one in particular was an interesting one. I kind of guessed what was going to happen at the beginning. And that kind of bothered me because usually I don't get it right. Honestly, I don't with the Agatha Christie stories, but this one I did right away. This is about a man who has a dinner party, which is like a typical thing that happens in Agatha Christie stories. And Hercule Poirot is one of the guests at the dinner table. They all are talking, having a good time, and then someone dies and they don't know why. And he is like a reverend who dies. So they're trying to figure out like, how did he die? And it's told pretty much right away that he could have been poisoned, but they couldn't find any poison in his blood, but they did find nicotine. It was very odd. It was interesting. And obviously in large doses, it's deadly. So Poirot is trying to figure out what's going on. He finds out like a butler was away for a while. There are these other people that come and go. And he's like, why are these people not here? Why were they here but left? And was this premeditated? He's just trying to figure out what's going on. Was he even the one that he wanted to kill, whoever killed him, or she wanted to kill? And so it's just, you know, he always tries to figure things out, and then we learn at the end who did it. So it was a good one. It wasn't one of the best ones, but definitely a good one. I liked this one more than a lot of the other ones. Another summer reading list. See, I'm just going through these summer reading list books like crazy. Coyote Lost and Found. Now, this is a sequel book. I read the first book a few years back, and it's a middle grade story. And the main character, now, in the first book, she goes on a journey with her father on a bus. They live in a schoolie, as it's called, and they travel around the country. They pick up different people. They learn their stories. So that's the first book. Now, she started to go to school, and she's having a really rough time because she had been pretty much raised on the road, and now she's got like a sit-down classroom. She's trying to make friends. She's having a hard time, but then COVID hits, and school's canceled. So she calls up her best friend who lives like a state up. She finds out that he also doesn't have school, so they say, hey, let's go on another trip, because they had been on a trip the last time together. So they go on a trip with her dad, and as well as another character, and you know, they pick up a couple people here and there too. But the whole idea of this book is she finds the ashes of her mother. Now, we know that in the first book right away that her mother and her 2 sisters are dead. Her mother's ashes, she didn't know that her mom was cremated. She was only like 6 years old when they all died. So she didn't know why her father hid these ashes for all these years. She's now 13, 14. And so she's trying to figure out like, why did he keep these ashes? And then she learns something else about her mother. And so she goes on this journey to try to find a place to put her mother's ashes. So that's what the book is about, her dealing with having to come to that terms of saying goodbye, and that it's still difficult for her and her father. While it's cute, I would not recommend this for a lot of young kids because for some reason they decided to use horrible language in here. Again, they're like 4. Why? This is a kid's book. There's combinations even put together, and I'm just like, we don't need to ruin kids' books with language. They're around it all the time as it is. Please, let's keep it nice. But the story was very sweet. I thought it was heartwarming. It was a nice sequel, not as good as the first book. A Cry of the Heart. This is a book about human trafficking, a survivor of it who started up her own organization and safe house. So she tells her story. Her name is Deborah. She talks about how she was brought up in a home with a Christian father who really loved her a lot, but how her parents were divorced. Her mother is a drug addict, alcoholic who sells herself for sex. So therefore, because she keeps going back and forth, she gets confused, and eventually she finds that lifestyle, she gets put into it by someone else against her will, how it all adds up over time, and that she realizes that as she becomes like a grown woman and gets out of that, she finds out that she is a victim of human trafficking, and she didn't even know. She just believed that she chose the life without going through the details. And this was definitely a beautiful Christian story about redemption and how God can really transform your life from being mistreated, abused, going through drugs, and all the things that you think of that are just horrible, being forced into different situations that are horrific. How even though you could go through some of the worst times, you can come through it and overcome and then help others out of it too. And she talks about some different ways that she realized God was trying to help her along the way. Now, I had heard about this book when it came out because I work with an organization and I have to read the books to try to help that. But the co-founder of the organization, I think she connected with this woman. And so she said, hey, we know this woman. Can you read the book? Because she wants us to promote it. And I, at the time, had lots of stuff going on. So someone else read it for me to help me out. I finally read it. So now I'll be able to help a little bit more with that. This book I'm about to finish. I will finish this. I only have 30 pages left. I figure since I'm pretty much there, I have to bring it back to the library. Actually, I don't have to bring it yet. It's not due for another 2 weeks, but hey, I finish it pretty quickly. It's almost done. I started this like a day or 2 ago. So I figure I will review this one too, and then I'll be up to date. Even though this is not a summer list, it is called Boat Baby, and it has a very summerish understanding, and a lot of it is set in the summertime. So Boat Baby is about this woman when she was a little girl. She grew up in she didn't grow up in Vietnam. When she was about 8 months old, her parents were refugees from Vietnam, and they went to Malaysia on a boat taking their baby, and then they went to California from there. Well, actually no, they went to Oregon from there, and then eventually went to California. And now she is a news anchor, which I don't watch the news, so I didn't know this until I'm like reading this. I'm like, oh, I don't know who she is. It is a very well written book. I'm enjoying it very much. Her stories are funny. It's clean. There is no bad language. She even like censored herself at one point and just put the first letter. So that was interesting to me, but there's nothing grotesque in this at all. So this is a good one to read. I really enjoyed her stories of what it was like growing up as a refugee in America. She talks about how, that struggle between being an American girl and a Vietnamese girl and her culture, and how it kind of was a divide. She also met her husband when they were 14, and it was a really cute story when she started talking about their relationship. It's very sweet. So this book had just recently come out, and I was really glad to read this. So I recommend this. That was about 9 books in this review. Whew, that's like the most I've done so far for an actual review video. But now I have to go cook dinner. Everyone's hungry, I'm sweating, and the French fries are almost done. So I gotta go. But this has been wonderful being able to talk to you about these books. I hope that you have been reading lots of books yourself in whatever way you can. Go to a beach if you're able to. Go relax outside in the sunshine and go have fun and enjoy your reading. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are on any of these books, if you have read them. And if you're like, hey, that sounds interesting, I really want to read that too. All right, guys, thanks. Bye.